Welcome back. Settle in. Let your shoulders drop. Tonight, we drift into a place that no longer exists. A library by the sea. A city of scrolls. The Library of Alexandria. Imagine warm wind from the harbor. The smell of salt and old papyrus. Soft lamps flickering on stone walls. Breathe slowly. There is nowhere to be tonight. Nothing to remember. Nothing to solve. Just a quiet wandering through a place built from curiosity. A place that loved to listen. Let your eyes grow heavy. We will walk its halls together. Picture the city, Alexandria, built on the northern edge of Egypt, where the desert meets the Mediterranean. A city dreamed up by a young king, founded long before our calendar began. The streets ran in straight, gentle lines, wide enough for carts, wide enough for sea breeze. White stone buildings glowing in the sun, palms swaying near the docks, and rising above it all, a tall lighthouse, its fire visible from far out at sea. Imagine sailors watching that flame, knowing they were almost home. Let your breath slow with the tide. The library was part of a larger place, a house of the muses. They called it the Mouseion, a garden of thinkers, a quiet campus by the palace. There were covered walkways, shaded gardens, small fountains, long tables of polished wood. Scholars walked here, slowly, speaking in low voices, eating simple meals together, sleeping in rooms nearby. They came from many lands, drawn by the promise of books, drawn by the promise of time. Time to think, time to read, time to wonder. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the garden settle around you. Now imagine the library itself. The great hall, tall ceilings, rows of shelves carved into the walls, each shelf filled with cylindrical scrolls, small wooden tags hanging from each one, soft sunlight pouring through high windows, dust drifting through the beams, the smell of cedar oil, the smell of dry reed, the whisper of pages being unrolled. Somewhere, a scholar reads aloud in a soft voice. Somewhere, a quill scratches against papyrus. Let your shoulders drop again. The library does not rush. It only waits. It is happy to have you. The scrolls were made of papyrus, a reed that grew thick along the Nile. Workers cut the stalks, peeled them, laid the strips in crossing layers, pressed them flat, dried them in the sun. The sheets were glued end to end, long ribbons of pale gold, then rolled around a wooden rod. A single book might stretch the length of a room. To read it, you unrolled with one hand, rolled up with the other. A slow, patient motion, like the turning of a season. Let your breath match that gentle turning. Breathe slowly. The kings of Egypt loved this library deeply. They wanted every book in the world, every poem, every play, every map, every recipe for medicine, every theory of the stars. They sent agents to distant ports, to buy, to borrow, to copy, Ships arrived in the harbor. Officials boarded them. Any books found on board were taken to the library, copied carefully. Sometimes the original was kept. The copy returned to the ship. The owners did not always know. The collection grew and grew and grew like a slow, quiet tide. Imagine the head librarian, a scholar chosen by the king himself. He kept the catalog, a massive list of every scroll, organized by subject, by author, by beginning line. This catalog itself filled many scrolls. It was called the Pinax, the tables, a library of the library. If you wanted a poem, he could find it. If you wanted a play, he could find it. A treatise on geometry, a book about bees. He knew where it lived. Let your mind imagine that quiet expertise, the calm of someone who knows where everything belongs. How many scrolls were there? No one knows for certain. The ancient writers gave different numbers. Some said tens of thousands. Some said hundreds of thousands. The truth is lost to time. But imagine shelves upon shelves, rooms upon rooms, a whole wing devoted to poetry, another to history, another to medicine, another to the heavens, aisles where you could walk for a long time and still not see every spine. Settle deeper. There is no need to count tonight. Let the numbers blur. Let only the warmth of the library remain. Scholars came from everywhere. Greece, Persia, Syria, North Africa, India sometimes. They lived at the Mouseion. They were given food, a bed, a small allowance. In return, they only had to think, to write, to teach. Imagine being told that. You may simply learn. You may simply wonder. There is nothing else expected of you. A whole life given to questions. A whole life given to books. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out. Let yourself feel that ease. The freedom of a quiet mind. The privilege of unhurried thought. One of those scholars was a man named Eratosthenes. He measured the size of the earth. Without ever leaving Egypt, he noticed something simple. At noon on a certain day in a southern town, the sun stood directly overhead. A stick cast no shadow. But in Alexandria, on that same day, a stick did cast a small shadow. From that tiny difference, he calculated the curve of the world. His answer was remarkably close to the truth, all from sunlight and patience and a stick in the ground. Let your thoughts soften with the sun. Another scholar was Aristarchus. He looked up at the night sky. He noticed how the sun and moon and stars moved, and he came to a strange idea. The earth, he said, may not be the center. The sun may be the center. The earth may circle the sun. Long before the world was ready to believe him, long before telescopes, long before anyone else dared to write it down, he sat in Alexandria, quietly correct. Imagine that quiet certainty, holding a true thing in your hand, while the world keeps moving past. Breathe slowly. Let the night deepen around you. Another scholar of the library was Euclid, a teacher of geometry. He gathered the shapes of the world, the triangle, the circle, the line, the point, and he wrote them down in careful order. His book was called The Elements. It was used for the next 2,000 years. Children copied it. Builders followed it. Astronomers leaned upon it. From a quiet desk in Alexandria, he gave the world a language for shapes, a language we still speak today. Imagine the writing rooms, long tables, scribes sitting cross-legged on cushions, each with a reed pen, each with a small pot of black ink. They worked slowly, carefully, letter by letter. Copying a scroll might take weeks, sometimes months. Their fingers stained dark, their backs slowly aching, but the work mattered. Every copy was a chance for a book to survive. Every copy was a small bridge across time. Let your breath slow to the pace of their writing. Letter, letter, letter. A quiet, devoted patience. The library held many translations too. There was a famous one, a translation of Hebrew scriptures into Greek, made by scholars said to have worked separately. Yet, in the legend, they all wrote the same words. Whether the legend is true does not matter tonight. What matters is the idea. The library wanted every story, every voice, every people. It did not want to forget anyone. Imagine that gentle ambition. To gather all the world's voices into one warm room. Let that thought settle. There is room for everyone here. Outside the library walls, the city moved. Fishermen pulled in their nets. Bakers shaped flat bread. Children chased each other through narrow streets. The harbor filled with ships from many countries. Egyptian, Greek, Phoenician, Roman, Indian, goods piled high, spices, cloth, wine, olives. The smell of cooking fish drifted on the breeze. Above it all, the lighthouse stood, tall and white, a fire at its top, a column of smoke by day, a bright flame by night. Breathe slowly. Let the city hum quietly around you. The lighthouse was called the Pharos. It rose from a small island in the harbor, tall as a mountain, the writer said, made of pale stone. A fire burned at its very top, reflected outward by polished bronze. Sailors could see its light from far out at sea. They would find it first at night, a small star low on the horizon, growing slowly brighter as their ship came closer. Imagine being one of those sailors, tired, salt on your skin, seeing that flame, knowing the library waited, knowing you were almost home. There was a smaller library too, a second one, in another part of the city, attached to a temple. They called it the daughter library or the sister library. It held copies of the most important works, held them in case anything happened to the main collection. The ancients understood something we sometimes forget, that knowledge is fragile, that a single fire, a single flood, a single careless decade could undo many lifetimes of care. So they made backups, quiet, sensible duplicates. Let your breath slow. Even the wise prepared for loss. Imagine a young scholar arriving for the first time. They have traveled for months, by boat, by foot, by cart, carrying only a small bag. Inside, a few personal items: a wooden comb, a change of clothes, a letter from a teacher far away. They reach the gates of the Mouseion. They are tired, dusty, hopeful. Someone leads them inside, past gardens, past fountains, past the long hall of scrolls. They are shown a small room, a bed, a desk, a lamp. "Welcome," the librarian says. "Stay as long as you wish. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out." The library had a special section for medicine. Scrolls written by doctors from many lands: Egyptian healers, Greek physicians, Babylonian astrologers who studied the body, recipes for poultices, notes on broken bones, drawings of herbs, long lists of which plants helped which pains. Some of their wisdom would be lost. Some would survive. Some still echoes in our pharmacies today. The willow bark for fever, the honey for wounds, the mint for the stomach. Old knowledge, patient knowledge, quietly waiting in scrolls. There were maps too, maps of the known world, drawn on long sheets of papyrus, coastlines traced from sailor reports, mountains marked from traveler tales, rivers named in many tongues. Some maps were beautiful, painted with care. Some were rough, sketched quickly by a returning captain. None were quite right, but each one was a beginning, a best guess at the shape of the world. Imagine running your fingers along one of those old coastlines, tracing a sea you have never seen. Let your mind drift to those distant shores. Let your shoulders drop. The library held poetry too, whole rooms of it. Old songs from old kingdoms, love poems, war poems, lullabies, prayers, hymns to forgotten gods, comic verses, tragic verses. Some were written by famous names. Some were anonymous. A song someone hummed once. A few lines a mother whispered to her child. The librarians did not throw any of it away. They kept it all. A whole archive of feelings. A library of human longing. Settle into that thought. So many small voices, all saved, all cared. There were plays as well, whole shelves of them. Tragedies, comedies, festivals of words. The library tried to gather every play ever performed in Athens, every chorus, every speech. Imagine the shelves of dramatic scrolls, names we still know, and names we have lost: Sophocles, Euripides, Aeschylus, and many others faded away. Only fragments remain of most. A few lines on a torn page, a title, a character's name. The rest, like smoke, drifting away on time. Breathe slowly. We will let those plays drift gently into sleep. Imagine Imagine walking the long hall at evening. The lamps are being lit one by one. A soft golden glow spreading from corner to corner. The shelves are quiet now. The scribes have gone home. Only a few late readers remain. One sits by a window, a scroll across his knees, lips moving silently. Another is bent over a small table, drawing a diagram of stars. The night birds call outside. The sea sighs in the distance. Let your breath match the sea's slow rhythm. In and out, in and out. Now picture a scholar named Hypatia. She lived later when the library was older. She taught mathematics, astronomy, philosophy. Students came from far away to listen to her. She was admired, respected, brilliant. She walked the same halls. She read the same scrolls. She gave the same kind of slow, patient attention that thinkers had given for centuries before. Imagine her by lamplight, working out a problem. A small smile when the answer comes. Let your mind rest on that small smile, the quiet satisfaction of an idea unfolding. Breathe in slowly. Let your eyes grow heavy. The library was not just a building. It was a habit of mind, a belief that books were worth keeping, that ideas were worth chasing, that a question from a stranger deserved an answer, that a poem from a distant island deserved a shelf. Imagine such a belief carried on year after year, by many different hands, by many different kings, by many different scholars, none of them living long enough to see the whole story, each of them adding one small page, one small care. The library had no walls of secrecy. Mostly, scholars shared their work. They read each other's scrolls. They argued at meals. They corrected each other's notes. They built on each other's ideas. Imagine that. Knowledge passed around the dinner table, like bread, like olives, like wine. There were no copyrights, no patents, only the slow, easy borrowing of thought. One scholar's question becoming another scholar's life work. One observation becoming another generation's certainty. Let your thoughts drift. We are still doing this tonight. You and I quietly sharing. Imagine the silence of the deep stacks. Far from the main hall, down narrow corridors, past forgotten doors. There were rooms that few people visited, rooms full of scrolls in older languages, languages no one in the city still spoke. The papyrus had grown brittle. The ink had faded, yet the librarians kept them, just in case someone someday might be able to read them again, just in case those forgotten voices still had something to say. Breathe slowly. Some things are worth keeping, even when we cannot use them yet. There was a garden behind the library, or so the stories say, a walled garden with paths of pale stone, beds of herbs, pomegranate trees, a small pool with water lilies, birds nested in the branches. Bees moved between the flowers. Scholars came here when their minds grew tired. They would sit on stone benches, Close their eyes. Listen to the water. Let a thought slowly unwind. Imagine sitting there with them. The warm air, the soft hum, the patient afternoon. Let your shoulders drop. There is no hurry in this garden. The library studied animals too, not just from books. Sometimes living creatures were sent to Alexandria as gifts to the king. Strange beasts from far lands, giraffes from the south, tigers from the east, birds with bright feathers. Scholars studied them, drew them, wrote down how they lived, what they ate, how they slept. Imagine a scribe sitting near a sleeping giraffe, pen in hand, wondering at the long curve of its neck, the slow blink of its eye, the careful patience of seeing the world clearly. Let your breath slow with the giraffe. Breathe slowly. The library tried to find every book of mathematics, old tablets from Babylon, Egyptian papyrus problems, Greek geometries, numbers from India and beyond. Scribes copied them all, translated them, discussed them. Imagine a small group of mathematicians sitting on a stone bench at evening, drawing shapes in the dust with a stick. One traces a triangle, another draws a circle, a third pulls a long line through both. They laugh quietly. They have found something true. Let your mind drift along that line, slow and clean and certain. There were children in Alexandria too. Some of them came to learn. Their parents brought them to the porches of the Mouseion to watch the older students, to hear the teachers speak. A child might wander between the columns, looking up at the high ceilings, touching the cool stone, imagining all the books inside. A teacher might smile and hand the child a small scroll, a simple story, a poem to memorize. Imagine that warm beginning, the wonder of a child meeting their first library. Let yourself remember your own first library. If you can, settle deeper. Let your eyes grow heavier. The library was always being expanded, new wings added, new shelves built, new scribes hired, new scholars invited. It never quite felt finished. There was always one more book to translate, one more language to learn, one more star to chart. Imagine that gentle, ongoing motion, like a slow tide, like a slow heartbeat, the library breathing in new knowledge, breathing out new copies, in and out, across centuries, across kings, across the long, quiet patience of a civilization that loved to know. There was a man named Callimachus, a poet, a scholar. He was the one who built the great catalog, the Pinax. He went through every scroll, listed every author, noted every title, wrote a short summary of each work. He organized it all by category, by size, by genre. He spent his life on it. Imagine that quiet devotion, to know where every book lives, to touch every scroll at least once, to leave behind a map of all the wisdom in your city, a gift to every reader who would come after. Breathe slowly. Imagine the smell of the library at night. Cedar from the shelves, old papyrus from the scrolls, a trace of olive oil from the lamps, the faint sea breeze coming through the windows, sometimes the warm scent of bread from a nearby kitchen, sometimes the sweet smell of jasmine from the garden outside. A library is not only a place of words, it is a place of small, gentle scents, each scent a memory waiting to be found. Let your breath draw them in. Slowly, let them carry you toward sleep. Breathe in, breathe out. The library was, in some ways, a city of its own habits, its own routines, its own quiet customs. Morning was for reading. Afternoon was for writing. Evening was for talking. Night was for dreaming about what you had read. Day after day, year after year, imagine living that life, a slow, steady cycle. Words in the morning, words at midday, words at sunset, and then, finally, rest. Sleep coming gently, like a closing scroll, like a soft hand on your shoulder. Let your eyes grow heavier. The library copied the works of Homer. Many times, the Iliad, the Odyssey, the great old poems of war and wandering. Scholars compared different versions, different lines, different endings. They tried to find the truest text. They wrote notes in the margins, tiny corrections, tiny disagreements. Imagine those margins, centuries of careful arguments, a whole quiet conversation between readers who would never meet, each one adding their voice, each one trying to honor a poem that was already old. Let that conversation hush around you. Slowly fading into night, picture a quiet courtyard at dawn. The sky pale, the sea still, the lamps inside the library not yet lit. A single librarian walks the halls, checking the scrolls, making sure no mice have come in the night, no insects have found the papyrus. He moves slowly, patiently, tapping each shelf, greeting each scroll like an old friend. Imagine that gentle morning ritual, the quiet duty of caring for something precious. Let your breath match his slow steps. 1, 2, 3. Soft on the cool stone. Soft and slow and calm. The library studied the calendar too. How long is a year? How does the moon move? When will the Nile flood? Egyptian priests had measured the seasons for a long time. Greek astronomers compared their notes. They built tables, charts, long lists of dates. They argued, they refined. Slowly, slowly, the calendar grew more accurate. Imagine the patience of that work, knowing you will not live to see your tables finished, knowing someone, generations later, will pick up your numbers and add a few of their own. Let your thoughts drift forward in time. Breathe slowly. The library held secrets too, not dark ones, just quiet ones. A scroll given by a king on his deathbed. A poem written by a queen no one had heard about. doctor's notes on a strange disease hidden away until safer times. The library did not always shout about its treasures. Some things sat for years on a back shelf, waiting, patient, just being there, knowing they were safe. Imagine that kind of quiet keeping, holding something gently, with no need to show it. Let yourself rest in that simple care. Imagine the harbor again. Boats arriving in the early light. Sailors stepping onto the docks, carrying small wooden boxes. Inside, more scrolls bought from a distant port, or copied at a faraway library, or rescued from a burning city far across the sea. Officials greet them, sign for the boxes, carry them up the wide stone road to the Mouseion. The library swells just slightly with each delivery. Another voice added to the great quiet chorus. Let your breath swell just slightly, then ease in and out. The harbor never sleeps, but you may. Was a story about a scholar named Demetrius. He served an early king. Some say he was the one who first proposed the great library. He whispered into the king's ear, "Build a place for all the world's books." The king listened. The king said yes. And so it began. Whether the story is true or only a beautiful tale, it tells us something. That libraries are sometimes born from a single quiet idea, a single whisper, a single moment of someone saying, "What if?" Breathe slowly. What if? What if? What if? Settle in. Let your shoulders drop. The library taught languages. Greek was the main one, but scholars also studied Egyptian, Aramaic, Phoenician, sometimes even tongues from much farther east. They wrote dictionaries, word lists, grammar guides. Imagine sitting with one, slowly learning a strange new alphabet, tracing each shape with a reed pen, saying each sound aloud. The slow patience of learning a new word, the quiet thrill of suddenly understanding a sentence you could not read before. Let your mind drift through unknown alphabets, soft and round, sharp and angled, all slowly becoming familiar. Imagine the long winter rains in Alexandria, rare but real, rain pattering on the stone roof of the library, soft, steady, the lamps glowing a little brighter against the gray sky, scribes pulling cloaks around their shoulders, scholars closing the windows, settling in for a quiet afternoon. The sea outside is gray. The garden is wet. The world has narrowed to this warm, lamplit room. Just you, just the books, just the rain. Let your breath slow with the rain. Tap, tap, tap. Soft against the roof of the world. There was an art to caring for scrolls. They had to be kept dry, away from mice, away from sunlight, rolled carefully so the edges did not fray, bound with linen ribbon, stored in cedar boxes when traveling. A young apprentice might spend years just learning these small skills: how to hold a scroll, how to roll it, how to slide it back onto the shelf without crushing its neighbors. Imagine that quiet apprenticeship. Hands slowly growing wise. A whole life learning to be gentle. Breathe slowly. Be gentle with yourself. Library hosted debates. Long ones, public ones. Scholars from different schools would stand before an audience. They would argue about the nature of matter, the nature of the soul, the shape of the universe, the proper meter of a line of poetry. People came to listen, to cheer, to laugh, to learn. Imagine sitting in the back of such a debate. A warm afternoon, your eyes growing heavy, the voices fatting in and out like waves. You do not need to follow every word. You only need to be there. Listening softly. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out. Imagine the library in the deep night. Most lamps are out. Only a few small lights remain. The shelves disappear into shadow. The high ceilings vanish into darkness. Outside, the moon is rising over the sea, silvering the waves. A single old scholar still sits by a lamp, reading slowly, not because he must, but because he wants to, because tonight the book is good. The night is quiet, and there is no better place to be. Let your mind sit gently beside him. Just for a moment, imagine the gardens by moonlight, the pomegranate trees still, the lilies on the pool half closed for the night, the bees gone home, the birds asleep in their nests, only a small breeze moving the leaves, a faint smell of jasmine in the cool air, the stone benches damp with dew. A single cat walks across the garden path, pauses, looks toward you, then continues on, tail high. Silent, soft, confident. Let your breath go soft. Let your thoughts go quiet. The garden does not need you to be awake. Library was a place where time bent. A scroll written hundreds of years before sat next to a scroll written last week. A reader could open both, compare them, talk to both authors at once, almost as if time were just a long room with doors at either end, open to anyone who learned to read. Imagine that, sitting at a desk with a friend from your own century and a friend from 1,000 years before, both of them sharing their thoughts with you through the soft, patient medium of words. Breathe slowly. There were jokes too. The library held books of humor, old joke collections, lists of riddles, short comic plays, things that made the ancient world laugh. Some of them still survive. Many do not. Imagine a scholar opening a dusty scroll, reading an old joke, and smiling just a little. A joke from 2,000 years ago, still landing, still working. The simple human warmth of someone long gone, trying to make someone else laugh. Let yourself smile faintly. Even now, we have always been like this, always laughing, always reaching for each other. Halfway through our quiet wandering, settle deeper. Let your shoulders drop again, your jaw soften, your breath slow. The library is still there in your mind. The long halls, the cedar shelves, the lamps, the scholars, the scrolls. None of them need anything from you tonight. None of them are calling. They are simply there. A warm, quiet place. A gentle setting for your thoughts to rest in. Breathe, breathe out. We have many beats left. There is no hurry. We will drift through them one by one. Slowly, softly. Together, imagine a small reading nook in the library, tucked between two tall shelves, a single bench, a small lamp, a worn cushion. Generations of scholars have sat here. Their elbows have polished a smooth spot on the wooden armrest. Their feet have worn a slight hollow in the stone floor. Imagine sitting there now, feeling the smooth wood, the cool stone, the soft glow of the lamp, the whisper of pages turning somewhere nearby. You do not need to read. You only need to rest. Let the nook hold you. Like an old friend, breathe slowly. The library studied music too. There were treatises on it, on scales, on rhythms, on the different modes that could lift the heart or soothe the soul. Greek lyres, Egyptian harps, reed pipes, drums of all kinds. Scholars wrote about which sounds calmed the sick, which sounds helped soldiers march, which sounds were best at lulling bobbies to sleep. Imagine a soft lyre playing somewhere in the library. A few quiet notes, drifting through the shelves, reaching your ear, slowing your breath even further. Let the music carry you. Let it carry you gently. Imagine the library at midday. Most readers have stepped out for a meal. The halls are nearly empty. A few sleepy cats lie on warm patches of stone. Sunlight pours through the high windows, striking the dust in the air. The shelves are perfectly still. The scrolls are perfectly still. Even the lamps, unlit at midday, are perfectly still. A whole room of stillness, a whole room of waiting. The library does not mind waiting. It is good at waiting. It has been waiting for thousands of years. Let your breath wait with it. There was a librarian named Xenodotus, the first chief librarian. He was the one who began the great work, sorting the scrolls, choosing the best texts of Homer, deciding which version of an old poem was truest. He started the long tradition of careful editing, of treating each old word with respect, of asking every time, what did the author really mean? Imagine that thoughtful labor. Hundreds of small decisions, each one trying to be fair to the past. Let your mind soften with his care. There is dignity in slow, attentive work. Breathe slowly. Let your eyes grow heavier. Imagine the library at the start of summer. The doors are open to let in the sea breeze. The garden outside is in full bloom. Bees hum past the windows. Children laugh somewhere in the distance. A scholar dozes in his chair, his head bent over a scroll, a small smile on his face. He has fallen asleep mid-sentence. Let yourself feel his easy rest, sleep coming to him without his noticing. Sleep coming to you, perhaps, the same way, quietly, without permission, without without ceremony, just easing in. Library had a kitchen, or near one. Scholars ate together at long tables. Simple meals, bread, olives, cheese, fish from the harbor, figs in season, honey from the temple bees, wine watered down. Imagine the soft clatter of clay bowls, the smell of warm bread, the murmur of conversation about a difficult passage of poetry, the shared laughter at a joke about geometry, food and ideas mixing easily. The mind needs the body needs the mind, both fed slowly, both sitting at the same table. Let your hunger and your wonder rest together. Imagine the night sky above Alexandria, clearer than our skies today. No electric lights, no haze of cities, just stars, many, many stars, a thick belt of them across the dome of the world. Scholars climbed to the rooftops of the Mouseion, brought their instruments, tracked the slow drift of planets, marked the rising of certain stars at certain hours. They built up, night by night, a quiet record of the heavens, a long, patient love letter to the sky. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the stars wheel slowly above you, as they always have. There were books on agriculture too. How to plant, when to plant, which soils, which seasons, which seeds. Notes from farmers all along the Nile. Notes from farmers in faraway Greece. Notes from farmers in Persia. Imagine all the careful hands behind those scrolls, the men and women who knelt in the dirt, who watched the rain, who watched the locusts, who learned slowly what would grow. Their wisdom carried into the library by some traveling scribe, saved for the next farmer who might one day need it. Let your gratitude soften and spread. Breathe slowly. Let your shoulders drop. The library held books about cooking too, old recipes, spice mixtures, bread doughs, sauces, some written by famous chefs, some scrawled on the back of an older scroll by an apprentice. Imagine that. A recipe from the kitchen of a long-forgotten cook, saved forever in a great library, treated by the librarians with the same care as a philosopher's treatise, because they understood. A good recipe is a kind of wisdom, a way of feeding people, a way of saying, here, this will help. This will be enough. Imagine the library at a great festival. Lamps lit everywhere. Music in the gardens. Poets reciting verses on the steps. Scholars dressed in better robes. Friends from many cities arriving by boat, drinking together, eating together, reading new work aloud to one another. Even the catalog room, usually so quiet, full of laughter. Even the dust seems to glow in the lamplight. Imagine being there, the warm crowd around you, the shared joy of stories. Then, eventually, the slow drift homeward, the lamps going out, one by one. The night settling back into stillness. Breathe in, breathe out. The library was tied to many other libraries. There was a great library at Pergamon, far across the sea, a rival in some ways. Its kings, too, gathered scrolls, hired scholars, built shelves. Some say the two libraries competed. Some say they cooperated. The truth probably was both. Books moved between them. Letters passed back and forth. Scholars traveled between cities. Imagine that wider web, a whole network of quiet rooms, all across the ancient world, all holding bits of the same long human conversation. Let your mind drift along that gentle web. There was a story about parchment made from animal skin. They say it became important when papyrus grew scarce, when Egypt, for a time, stopped sending its reed paper abroad. Scholars in other cities had to find new ways to write. They scraped sheepskins, smoothed them, treated them. The new material lasted longer. It could be folded into books, bound between covers. The shape of reading slowly changed, scrolls becoming pages, pages becoming books. Imagine that slow shift, a new form being born from a small shortage. Let your breath ease into the change. Imagine standing on the library steps at sunset, the sky above the harbor turning pink and gold, the sea calm, the fishing boats coming in, a few last birds wheeling over the lighthouse, the scholars saying goodnight to one another, some walking home, some staying for one more chapter, the lamps inside the library beginning to glow, the doors slowly closing for the night. Breathe slowly. Listen. The city is settling. The library is settling. You are settling. We are all going home together in some way, each of us to our own quiet rest. Sometimes sad things happened to the library. There were fires. There were political troubles. Rulers who cared. Rulers who did not. Years when budgets were cut. Years when scholars left. The library was not always loved. It was not always safe. But people kept showing up, kept copying scrolls, kept teaching students, kept tending the lamps. Imagine that. A long love that survived neglect. A long care that kept on caring, even when no one was watching. Let your breath honor that quiet persistence. Let it be a model for your own slow patience. Breathe in slowly. Let your eyes grow heavier. There is a famous story about a fire. Many fires, perhaps. The library was said to have burned. Some say during a war. Some say much later. Some say it simply faded over centuries. Books lost. Scrolls crumbled. Shelves emptied. The truth is mixed and tangled. But the loss was real. Many wonderful works did not survive. Tonight, we will not dwell on the burning. We will only acknowledge it softly, as one acknowledges any old grief. Slowly, with breath, with gentleness, and then we will move on, because the library is not only what was lost, it is also what was saved. Scholars who learned their carried ideas to other cities. Their students taught their own students. Books copied in Alexandria traveled to Rome, to Byzantium, to Baghdad, to Spain, across centuries, across empires, across faiths. The little stream of careful knowledge kept flowing, sometimes thin, sometimes wide, but never quite gone. Imagine that stream. Touch it gently in your mind. We are still drinking from it tonight. Let your breath thank it. Let your thoughts rest in its current. Imagine an old scribe sitting by candlelight, not in Alexandria, but in a small monastery far to the north. Centuries later, he is copying a Greek text, a passage of geometry, a line of philosophy. He does not know it, but the text he is copying first came from the Library of Alexandria, saved by someone, carried by someone, translated by someone, now passing through his hands, tonight into our hands. Breathe slowly. So many quiet keepers, so many unknown helpers, so many hands across the centuries, holding something open so we could find it. There were Arab scholars too. Centuries later in Baghdad, another great library was built, the House of Wisdom. There, scholars translated Greek texts into Arabic. Many of those texts had passed through Alexandria long before. They were saved a second time, studied, expanded, then later translated into Latin, then later into the modern languages of Europe. A book born in Alexandria might have traveled the world, lived in many libraries, spoken many tongues, before finally reaching our shelves today. Let your breath honor that long journey. Each book, a quiet, weary traveler, finally home. Breathe slowly, settle deeper. Imagine all the librarians of Alexandria, generation after generation, their names mostly lost now, their faces gone, their quiet days untold. They worked in those halls for a long lifetime. They greeted scholars, they lit lamps, they mended scrolls, they wrote labels, they tended the catalog. They never wrote books famous enough to survive, but the library could not have existed without them. Imagine offering them a small, silent thanks tonight for their patience, for their care, for their love of the smallest, most invisible parts of the work. Imagine the cool stone floor of the library, worn smooth by countless feet, some sandaled, some bare, some hurrying, some slow, some young, some old, generations of footsteps on the same patient stone. The stone does not mind. The stone is patient. It only collects each step, each visit, each quiet errand, like a long, slow river collecting water, like a long, slow library collecting knowledge. Let your own breath be that patient, in and out, collecting nothing, holding nothing, simply present, simply welcoming. Let yourself be as patient as the stone. The library housed books on geography, whole rooms of them, treatises by traveler scholars. Eratosthenes himself wrote one, A book describing the size and shape of the lands of the world, the flow of rivers, the location of distant kingdoms, the colors of soils, the customs of faraway peoples. Imagine reading such a book by lamplight, following a description of a road you will never walk, a mountain you will never see, a city you can only picture. Travel for the mind. Travel without leaving your seat. Let your thoughts wander to those places. Softly. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out. Imagine a small reading room reserved for the head librarian, a round table, a single tall window, a view of the harbor, a few personal scrolls on a small shelf nearby. The head librarian might sit here in the late afternoon, drinking a small cup of watered wine, looking out at the sea, thinking about the day, about a difficult passage of Homer, about an apprentice who has been struggling, about a new scroll that arrived yesterday. The quiet duties of a long, careful life. Let your own duties rest. Just for tonight, imagine the sound of pages and scrolls being opened. Very softly, the faint rustle of papyrus, the slight crackle of dry reed, the whisper of cloth ribbons being untied, multiplied by hundreds of readers across many rooms, through many hours of the day. A quiet, continuous music, the sound of attention, the sound of curiosity, the sound of a civilization that loved to read. Let your breath join that music, in and out, the soft rustle of your own thoughts, slowing now, settling, folding gently, like a scroll being closed for the night. The library kept books on dreams too, treatises on what dreams might mean, Egyptian dream interpretations, Greek theories of the sleeping mind. Doctors had ideas, priests had ideas, poets had ideas. None of them quite agreed. Imagine the scholars debating it. What is a dream? Where does it come from? What does it want? Tonight, your dreams are getting ready to come. We will not analyze them. We will not interpret them. We will only let them arrive. Let them be welcomed gently, like guests at a quiet inn, like scrolls at the great library. Breathe slowly. Imagine an apprentice scribe finishing his first complete scroll. He has worked on it for many weeks. Long mornings, stiff fingers, sore back. Now, at last, the last line is written. The ink is drying. His teacher inspects the work, reads each section, nods slowly, praises a clean curve here, corrects a small smudge there, then says very gently, "This is well done." The apprentice almost cries. Imagine that small, quiet pride. Something completed, something good, something added to the library forever. Let your own small accomplishments warm you tonight. They count. Imagine a quiet, rainy afternoon. The library is half empty. Most scholars have gone home early. Only a few remain, reading by the soft gray light. The lamps are not yet lit. The garden outside is wet. The pool is full. The lilies are closed. There is no sound but rain, and the soft sigh of pages, and the slow creak of an old wooden chair. Imagine being a single reader in that hush, surrounded by all that quiet care, all those books, all those scrolls, all for you in this moment. Settle in, settle deeper. Breathe in, breathe out. The library had books about animals, real ones, and imaginary ones, travelers' tales, half-remembered descriptions, sometimes accurate, sometimes wildly off. Sea serpents, unicorns, giant ants who dug gold from the sands. Some of these creatures, of course, did not exist, but the books still mattered. They preserved what people once thought. They preserved the dreams of a civilization. Imagine those gentle errors, held with the same care as the truest facts. The library did not need to be perfect. It only needed to be patient. Let yourself be imperfect and patient. Imagine the soft sound of a stylus on wax. Sometimes scholars made notes on small wax tablets, easier to correct than ink on papyrus. They could melt the wax, smooth it, start again, a draft, a practice, a quick thought. The wax tablet held many erasures before its final version was copied onto a scroll. Imagine that quiet permission, the right to be wrong first, the right to draft, the right to try. Let yourself rest in that permission. You do not need to be finished tonight. You may simply soften, may simply draft your sleep. Breathe slowly. The library kept lists of words, long lists, synonyms, antonyms, rare words, old words, slang words used by sailors, technical words used by doctors, hunting words, sailing words, words for clouds, words for waves, words for the moods of horses. Imagine reading such a list, word after word, slowly, each one a small lens onto a small corner of the world. The richness of human speaking, the variety of human noticing. Let your own attention rest. There is no list to finish tonight. Only the gentle song of words drifting past you. Imagine the library on the last warm evening of summer. The doors thrown open, the garden full of fireflies, a few scholars sitting outside on stone benches, sharing cups of cool wine, telling stories, watching the stars come out, a lyre playing softly from somewhere indoors, the lighthouse just beginning to glow in the distance, the smell of jasmine and sea salt mixing in the air. Imagine being there. Imagine being welcome. Imagine that simple summer night. Let your breath stretch out. Let your shoulders drop further. Let yourself sink into that warm, soft evening. Breathe in slowly. Let your eyes grow heavier. The library was a teacher of patience. Things took time. A translation took months. A catalog took years. A scholar's reputation took decades. Nothing happened quickly. Nothing was expected to. The whole place ran on slow time, long time, generational time. Imagine your own life slowing to that pace, just for tonight. No deadlines, no notifications, no urgent tasks, only the slow turning of pages, only the slow drip of the water clock, only the slow rise and fall of your own quiet breath. Imagine the library at the very first hour after dawn, the sun just touching the high windows, the night lamps being put out one by one, a faint smell of warm bread from the kitchens, the first scholars arriving, stretching, yawning, greeting one another softly, settling at their desks, unrolling their scrolls from where they had left off the day before. A whole new day of reading beginning, a whole new day of wonder. You do not have to start that day. You only have to watch it begin. Then turn over and rest. The library held books on dance, on gesture, on the meanings of movements. Different temples had different traditional dances, some sacred, some celebratory, some for grief. Scholars wrote down their steps, their meanings, their music. Imagine those dancers long gone, their bodies once full of grace, their feet once light on the temple floor, now only recorded in faded ink, now only remembered in the soft margins of a quiet library. Let your own body rest in your bed. Let it be still as those dancers, finally, as still as the long, kind night. Breathe slowly. The library was full of biographies too, lives of famous men, some lives of famous women, lists of their deeds, their teachers, their students, their travels, their last words. The librarians felt that lives were worth keeping. Not just laws, not just plays, not just numbers, lives too. The shape of a single human existence, the arc of one person's days. Imagine your own life held with that kind of care, as if it mattered, as if it deserved a page. It does. Let yourself believe that, just for tonight, just for sleep. Imagine an old map of the heavens, painted on the ceiling of one of the library's rooms. Stars in gold leaf, constellations outlined in faded blue, the zodiac wheel curving around the edge. Scholars would lie on their backs on the cool stone floor, looking up, studying, memorizing, comparing the painted sky to the real one. Imagine lying with them, looking up at that ceiling, not needing to remember anything, just letting the painted stars wash over you. Bright, quiet, endless. Let your breath rise toward them, then settle back down, soft and slow. Breathe in, breathe out. Imagine all the small private moments inside the great library. A scholar quietly weeping over a poem, a young student suddenly understanding a difficult proof, an old man closing a scroll and smiling at a memory, a friend leaning over to whisper a joke, a librarian gently turning down a lamp, two strangers meeting eyes across a long room. So many small human moments, each one folded into the larger story, each one a kind of treasure. Tonight, as you drift to sleep, your own small moments are folding in two. The library was a model for libraries to come, for places of learning everywhere. The idea spread. Other cities built their own, smaller ones, larger ones. Some lasted, some did not. But the dream stayed alive. The dream of a place where books were welcomed, where readers were welcomed, where questions were welcomed. Tonight, every library that has ever existed owes something to Alexandria. And tonight, every reader, including you, is a quiet descendant of those first scholars. Let your breath thank them. Let your sleep honor them. Let your dreams be calm. Imagine the modern library being built in Alexandria today. The new one, a wide, sloping building near the harbor, a round disc angled toward the sky. Inside, modern shelves, modern books, modern computers. Outside, the Mediterranean still washes against the shore. The same sea, the same wind, the same warm sun. A library reborn, in a different shape, with different scrolls, but the same heart. Imagine standing on its steps, greeted somehow by all those old librarians. Welcome back, they whisper. Welcome back. Let your breath settle into that welcome. You are home. Breathe slowly. Imagine the library as a feeling, not just a place. The feeling of being among books, the feeling of being among ideas, the feeling of being trusted with something precious, the feeling of safety inside a quiet room, the feeling of belonging to a long, slow conversation that began long before you and will continue long after. Tonight, your bed is a small library. Your blankets are its walls. Your slow breath is its quiet music. Let your mind rest there. There is nothing more to read tonight. There is only the warm hush. Imagine one last walk through the great hall. The lamps are low now. The shelves stretch into shadow. The high ceiling is dark. A few scholars are still bent over their scrolls, but their eyes are heavy. They will soon close. They will rest their heads on their arms. They will fall asleep at their desks, as scholars have always done, as you may be doing now. The library does not mind. The library is glad you are here. The library is glad to keep watch while you sleep. Breathe slowly. Soften deeper. Imagine very gently all the things the library ever was. A gift from kings, a home for scholars, a house of muses, a garden of thinking, a keeper of poems, a keeper of plays, a keeper of medicine, a keeper of stars, a keeper of jokes, a keeper of recipes, a keeper of dances, a keeper of names, a keeper of dreams, a keeper of patience, a keeper of care. All those things at once. All those things slowly, slowly gathering across centuries. Let your breath gather them. Then let your breath release them. One by one. Breathe slowly. Let your shoulders drop one more time. The library lived for many centuries. It is gone now in its old form, but it is also not quite gone. Pieces of it live on, in books that survived, in ideas that survived, in every library, in every city, in every century since, in every quiet reader, in every patient teacher, in every careful translator, in every gentle librarian. Imagine that. Nothing truly precious is fully lost. Some shape of it always passes on. Let that thought soften you. Let it carry you toward sleep, toward rest. Imagine the lighthouse still standing, the flames still burning, sailors still coming home, the harbor still calm in the evening light, the streets still glowing with lamps, the Mouseion still humming with scholars, just in your mind, just for tonight, as real as anything else there. Picture it warmly. Walk its corridors one more time. Touch one more scroll. Breathe in the smell of cedar. Smile at one more scribe. Then turn. Walk slowly toward the door. The night is waiting outside. The stars are waiting. Your sleep is waiting. Walk toward them, softly. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out. Imagine your own private library inside your mind. Every book you have ever loved, every story that ever moved you, every poem you ever remembered, every kind word ever said to you, every gentle teacher, every patient friend. They are all there, on the shelves of your inner library. They are quiet now. They are not asking anything of you. They are simply there, like old friends in another room, watching gently while you rest. Let them watch over you. Let them keep your sleep. Let them tend your dreams. The library is hushing now. The lamps are mostly out. The doors are closing for the night. The catalog room is dark. The garden is quiet. The lighthouse still glows. But the great hall is sleeping. Only a faint glow from one last lamp somewhere near the back, tended by some unknown caretaker, always tended, always kept, as your own breath is tended now, by your own quiet body, without your having to think about it. Let your breath ease. Let it grow soft. Let it grow slow. The library is sleeping. So may you. Imagine the sound of the sea outside the library. Gentle waves. A slow, soft rhythm. The same rhythm that has rocked sailors and scholars to sleep for thousands of years. The same rhythm that is rocking you now. In and out, in and out. The sea does not hurry. The sea does not worry. The sea simply keeps moving, steady, eternal, calm. Let your breath fall into that sea. Let your thoughts fall into that sea. Let your body fall into that sea. The Mediterranean is older than every library and more patient. Breathe slowly. The Library of Alexandria is fading now, becoming a memory inside your sleepy mind. The shelves dimming, the scrolls softening, the scholars closing their eyes, the lamps growing faint, the lighthouse far away becoming a single small star, the sea beneath it all slow and patient, the night Above it all, wide and dark. Settle in. Let the library go. It has given you what it could tonight. A quiet place. A gentle wandering. A soft path toward sleep. There is nothing more to do. Nothing more to keep. Nothing more to read. Imagine a final scroll, resting on a small table. A single lamp beside it. The scroll is closed, tied with a ribbon of soft linen. Whatever was written inside is safely held. Whatever you have learned tonight is safely held. There is no need to remember it all. The library remembers for you. Your bed remembers for you. The dark, kind night remembers for you. Let your breath grow softer. Let your jaw soften. Let your eyes stay closed. Let your hands rest. Let the lamp beside the scroll burn low. Let it almost go out. Breathe slowly. The night deepens. Your thoughts slow. Your body softens. The library is quiet. The harbor is quiet. The lighthouse is quiet. The stars are quiet. Only your slow breath remains. In and out, in and out. There is nowhere to be, nothing to remember, nothing to solve. The story of Alexandria continues somewhere in someone's mind, but not in yours just now. Yours is going to sleep. Yours is letting go. Yours is drifting, 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 like a small boat on a calm, dark sea, toward a soft, kind morning. The lamp goes out. The scroll is closed. The library is sleeping. So are you. Let your thoughts slow. Let your body sink. The night will keep watch. The library will keep watch. The lighthouse will keep watch. You do not have to keep watch tonight. Just rest. Just breathe. Just drift. Drift, drift. Sleep well. Sleep softly. Sleep deep. Sleep deep. Sleep deep.